Most of us feel uncomfortable with silence. In conversations, silence feels awkward, heavy, like something needs to fill the space right away, and liars know that. They depend on the fact that most people can't handle silence, so they rush in with explanations, stories, and distractions. But here's the thing, silence is not your weakness. It's one of your strongest tools, because when you don't rush to fill the gap, the pressure shifts entirely onto the liar. That pause you create is not empty, it's powerful. It makes them face themselves without a cushion, and liars hate that. Think about it. When someone tells you something that doesn't sound right, your first instinct is usually to respond quickly, maybe to challenge it, maybe to defend yourself, maybe to prove them wrong. That's what they expect, because if you're busy defending, you're not noticing the cracks in what they're saying. But when you don't bite, when you don't jump into defense mode, you leave them alone with their words. And suddenly, those words start to feel heavier to them. That silence is a mirror, and what they see in it is their own dishonesty staring right back at them. Liars often rehearse what they want to say. They come prepared with a polished story, or at least a version of events that sounds convincing enough. But here's where the pause works against them. They rehearse the speech, not the silence after it. They don't plan for you to just sit there calm, not arguing, not nodding, not rushing to reply. That pause throws them off balance, because now they're not in control of the flow. They can't read what you're thinking, and that uncertainty pushes them to keep talking. And the more they talk, the more the cracks show. The human brain does something interesting under pressure. When someone is lying, their cognitive load is already high. They're juggling the truth, their story, and your reaction. Add silence on top of that, and the pressure multiplies. Their brain wants relief, so they start filling the silence with more details, more explanations, more words. And that's exactly where lies unravel. They over-explain, they contradict themselves, or they add information that doesn't line up. The pause doesn't just expose the lie, it pulls the liar deeper into it until they trip over their own words. The beauty of using silence is that it doesn't require confrontation. You don't have to yell, accuse, or even call someone out directly. You just have to hold still and let the weight of their own words do the work. Silence works like a spotlight. It shines right on the liar without you having to point a finger. And what makes it even more effective is that it's unexpected. People are trained for arguments. They're not trained for stillness. That pause becomes uncomfortable, and the liar scrambles to relieve it by talking, and in talking, they reveal themselves. And here's the part most people underestimate. Silence gives you control. When you stay calm and quiet after a suspicious statement, you're not just exposing the liar, you're controlling the pace of the entire interaction. You're showing that you won't be rushed, won't be manipulated into reacting. That control puts you in the driver's seat because you get to observe, listen, and notice everything they're doing. The pause slows everything down so that you can pick up on the small signs, the stumbles, the unnecessary details, the sudden change in tone that you would have missed if you had jumped in too fast. So next time you sense dishonesty, don't rush. Don't argue. Don't immediately explain yourself. Just pause. Let the silence sit there. Let them feel it and watch what happens next, because more often than not, the lie will begin to collapse under the weight of the pause itself. When someone lies, they want you to be the one carrying the burden of proof. They throw out a statement, and immediately you feel like you have to respond, defend, or explain yourself. That's how they shift the power. They put you on trial, even though they're the one twisting the truth. But here's where the trick comes in. Instead of reacting, instead of playing the game they set up, you flip it. You hand the weight right back to them with a simple question. And that reversal changes everything about the conversation. It works because liars count on you being reactive. They expect you to fight, argue, and explain. That's what gives them control. The moment you flip the question, you take that control away. Imagine someone throws out an accusation or a questionable story, and instead of defending yourself, you calmly say, "What makes you say that?" Or "Can you explain that again?" Suddenly, they're the one who has to do the heavy lifting. They're forced to repeat themselves, to explain their words, and every time they do, the cracks widen. The beauty of reversing the question is in how simple it is. You don't need a long speech. You don't need clever comebacks. Just one short, calm question puts the responsibility where it belongs, on the liar. And the best part? It doesn't sound aggressive. It doesn't invite a fight. It sounds curious, neutral, like you're genuinely asking for clarification. That's what makes it so disarming. Liars are ready for arguments, but they're not ready for calm, direct curiosity. That's what catches them off guard. Think about how liars prepare. They don't usually build layers of explanation. They build a surface-level story, hoping you'll accept it without digging deeper. When you reverse the question, you force them to go beneath that surface. And that's where their story starts to fall apart. They repeat themselves, but the details shift. They explain again, but their tone changes. They add something new, and now it doesn't line up with what they said before. And the more they try to patch the gaps, the more obvious the lie becomes. And here's what makes it powerful. You don't need to raise your voice or accuse them outright. You're not saying, "I don't believe you." You're saying, "Can you tell me more?" That approach lowers defenses, but it also digs deeper. Liars are not prepared to dig. They want shallow waters where they can skate by without resistance. Your calm questions push them into deeper water, and deep water is where their story sinks. The reversal puts the pressure right back where it belongs without you having to do the hard work. Another layer of this trick is patience. When you reverse the question, don't rush to follow up. Just let them answer and listen carefully. Pay attention to the words they choose, the speed of their response, the way their story changes the second or third time around. You'll notice patterns, hesitation, repetition, unnecessary details. Those are the tells, and you only catch them because you slowed down, flipped the weight back on them, and gave them room to unravel themselves. So the next time someone throws something at you that doesn't add up, don't defend, don't argue, don't explain, flip it. Reverse the question. Make them carry the burden of proof, and then watch as their own words start to pull the truth out into the open. Liars feed off emotion. When they throw a false story at you, what they're really hoping for is a strong reaction. They want you angry, they want you defensive, they want you worked up. Because once you get emotional, you stop listening as clearly, you stop noticing details, and you start arguing from your feelings instead of from the facts. That's the exact environment where lies thrive. But when you hold a neutral tone, when you stay calm and steady, you rob them of that power completely and shift control back into your hands. Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons. The second your voice rose, their story suddenly seemed stronger, even if it wasn't true. Not because it was convincing, but because your reaction made it look like you were scrambling. Liars don't need the truth on their side when they have your emotions working against you. But neutrality shuts that door. A steady, measured voice says, "I'm not rattled, I'm not buying the performance, and I'm not stepping into the trap you've set." That calm presence speaks louder than any argument could. Here's the secret. Tone shapes perception. You could be asking the exact same question, but if you load it with sarcasm, anger, or frustration, it sounds like an attack. And attacks invite pushback. But if you ask it calmly, directly, in a neutral tone, it doesn't